He didn't say what. Oh, damn it. Uh, Greetings. Good morning and good evening. We're back for another Soul Sim sideshow. Aspects non voice, the flashback, the prequel. So this is me once again, your humble host, Virtuous, and alongside me we've got the one and only Maharashtra,
The youngest of them all.
the youngest of them all. And somewhere out in the distance of space, watching and overseeing, we have our soul, Sim Mirak.
Man, that cliffhanger from last time was crazy. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go look for 25.2, the doozy.
Indeed, indeed. And that is exactly where we are picking up from. But for a quick recap, to get everybody on the same page, previously, and I'm saying real previously, because this was a bit of a flashback, Virtuous and Maha found themselves trapped for 13 years within a pocket dimension created by the aspect of production, Zevril. Due to a series of what seemed like unfortunate events, however, ended up turning into something a little bit more fortunate, Maha and Vert have been training for a very long time. In that training, getting to know each other's moves, abilities, skills, and even souls just a bit. So much so that Aster was able to perform a very involved, very detailed ritual that would allow Maha to experience the lives of his ancestors. A spell that would tap into the ancestral memory within his very blood and allow him a lived experience of Mantonin culture, something he had never really received before. Accepting that and entering into this, I would call it a projection, but it was so much more than that. We'll get into those details later. Accepting the spell, though, Maha found himself reborn into a new family, into a new tribe. And from birth, he was already a little bit different from the rest. But the Shrouding Spirit tribe, though they weren't the largest or the strongest, were rather mighty, very adaptive. And Maha found himself, if not fitting right in, then making a place. To start, he was born in a litter of 5. Or was it 6? Let me take a look.
5.
5, right? One, two,
Ye-
three, four. No, a litter of 6, actually.
Oh, it
There were
was.
5 others besides him.
Okay.
And typical of Mantonin culture, once he was old enough to start training, his father had taken him, had him choose a weapon, but the young Maha had chosen his own fist. Like many of his age receiving their first weapons, a lot of the kids had their own little mini tournament, were challenging each other, fighting each other. And it was around this time where Maha was really starting to meet and make friends with his other siblings. And maybe some enemies. As even though he was able to befriend one of the smaller and weaker of his litter, Chrysivore, one of the largest and strongest of his litter, Jorash, did not like him for various reasons and had even warned him that their brother had perished fighting Jorash. Oh, I'm sorry. So it's a litter of 6, actually. But their brother had perished fighting Jorash. And the same thing would happen to Maha if he wasn't careful, if he crossed them. Still, undaunted, When the time came for the kids' first hunt, not only did Maha choose one of the strongest creatures to hunt, but he chose for his companion the very same Mantonin brother that hated him. With a bit of persuasion, a little bit of guile, Maha, Maha and Jorash made their way out into the wilds and beyond, through the silver fields, beneath the red sky, past crimson mountains, and almost to the very edge of their people's territory, to hunt a creature known as an Egeshin. This beast was as deadly as it was cunning, very powerful, a mixture of ape and mountain ram, with scales of a lizard and the ferocity of something much, much worse. Maha and Jorash had climbed the creature's habitat, one of the many mountains, and the beast even ambushed them. But they still made their way up, found its den, fought it, and the two of them found themselves, or rather, all three of them found themselves tumbling back down the mountain in that very skirmish, risking an almost instant demise, the very quick and unfortunate end to the spell. Maha grappled with the beasts all the way back down the mountain, tumbling until they landed with a heavy impact. Jorash landing not too far away. But when the dust settled and everything had cleared, it was the beast that was standing first, holding both Maha and his brother by their throats and roaring. Which is where our story will continue today. So, with that, let us begin again. Maharashtra, you can barely breathe right now. This creature's massive paw/hands are gripped around your throat and hoisting you over the ground, corroding you with its own grip. And to your surprise, Jorash, who is larger and heavier than you, was also lifted up by the other hand of the creature and held by his throat. Both of you guys squirming against the beast's grip as it roared. It looked like it was trying to decide between the two of you who it wanted to attack first. Its attention turned to the weaker of the two, the perceived weaker, being you. And with jaws open wide, fangs as large as your skull, it would lunge and then pause. The sound of a horn blaring, almost sounding like a war horn. With that hesitation, what do you do?
How close would you say it's to me?
It was about to bite your face off, so like a foot away.
Oh, got you. I'm gonna sting it in its eye.
Give me that attack roll.
I got a 20.
A healthy 20. Tail rearing up, much like a scorpion, spike poise, and you would stab forward. The creature turned its head just enough so that its entire eye wasn't gouged out. It took the gash across the top of its brow, the ridge. And as it roared, it threw Jorash away from you, slammed its hand to pin you into the ground, inflicting 5 con, and was about to bite your throat out right there and then. But this fog, or rather a mist, seemed to billow past you all. In your ears, you could hear a healthy buzzing, a really insistent zzz, as that mist was actually a series of creatures. These bee-like things, these wasp monsters, would swarm over you and towards the beast holding you down. swarming across its face, stinging at its wounds, going for its eyes, similar to you. You would hear behind you, Maha! Or I guess more so above you, as someone sprang over you and gripped onto the creature's back. Two stingers rearing up from over its shoulders, trying to sting at it wildly while the creature roared, staggered away from you, releasing you from its grip, and shook. In its movements, in its thrashing, you could see that on its back was another one of your brothers. Kristovar, also known as Diavith by his pet name, the weakest of the group, at least physically, but also perhaps the most ingenuous, as he had jumped onto its back, was trying to sting it with his tails, and had this weird horn on his waist. You could see, or rather, you could sense the honey dripping out of the side of the horn as if it was a certain kind of hive, or a weapon, an instrument repurposed into a weapon. But nonetheless, as this thing is thrashing, now distracted, you hear, Ma, ah, ah, are you okay? Did I make it in time?
Never earlier.
Grass is getting to his feet now, but he would wince. You could see that from the tumbling down, one of his knees had a nasty gash. Perhaps the kneecap was broken. It was hard to tell. He was still forcing his way to his feet, though, growling. What the fuck is that?
Yet another helper.
He glared at you. I told you I didn't need no help. He stood up and forced himself to run, but his leg would buckle, dropping down onto one knee once again. What do you do?
Sure you want that swing in, right?
He didn't respond, but he kind of glared up at you while trying to get back to his feet.
You know, stronger than I look. I'm gonna give you a throw. Let you get a clean hit in.
And almost right on cue, you hear, Doc! Give me a. Oh wait, no, this is not Exodus. Let me just roll. Actually, give me a reflex save.
That's just a deck save, right?
Yes.
I got another.
Another 20.
Another 20.
This time it wouldn't necessarily be something that you saw, and even though you heard it, your ears twitching very cat-like to swivel around and catch the sound properly. Your whiskers and the extra sense of touch they gave you, catching the vibrations in the air, is what informed you exactly how to turn your shoulder just out of the way, like a pseudo duck, so that a very large, almost javelin-like arrow would shoot past you and right into the Aigish's, let's see, roll d5. Right into his chest. Once again, it staggered backwards, and you'd be able to see, not too far away, a girl, same age as you, very, very familiar, as she was your sister, a certain archer, who was sitting there, Varija, atop what looked like a small wyvern. Definitely wasn't grown. Definitely was maybe a little bit older than her. But apparently, whatever she had been hunting, she had managed to tame it and was now resting on it. Her massive bow slung over her shoulder. She looked at you and grinned. Ah, you're still alive?
And in full health.
Ah.
Coughs up blood.
When she saw that, her mock disappointment turned to genuine concern, and she glared at the creature. You hurt my brother! She drew her bow back again and was going to fire one more time, but the creature finally managed to get the nuisance off of his back, reaching over its shoulder and slamming Reservoir right into the ground, roaring with one heavy hand, pressing him further and further into the ground. He gasps, squirming against it, trying to use his tails to sting, but finding no real purchase, not able to penetrate the skin as the creature jostled him. He was slammed so hard he couldn't even yell out. He had no air in his lungs.
Gonna go in for a very high effort tackle.
You're going to
Right.
tackle the creature that
I'm
is
gonna
significantly
tackle
larger than you.
that is significantly. Gonna tackle his knee. Gonna go after the knee. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Give me the attack roll, please.
I'm praying. If the narrative goes the way I think it's gonna.
Question: when you run, especially running at full speed, is it 2 feet or all fours?
Oh, it's definitely all fours.
All fours. All right, like a hunting animal. Part tiger, part missile. You would shoot across the ground, running on all fours, leaving prints and slight claw gouges beneath your feet as you kept your traction, and then threw yourself like a rocket, slamming into the outer area of the creature's knee. And let me see if it's actually knocked down. Knocking it off its feet. Its grip released on your brother, even as it tumbled, and immediately your sister would fire another arrow. You saw your other brother slowly moving forward, moving with a limp, but Jorash would lift up his maul over his head. Hold it down. I'll smash its skull. What do you do?
As he says that, I kind of like Spider-Man style hold both of his hold the monsters both legs. Holding them together.
As this creature is flailing and looks down at you, you see that I gotta call him by his single name. I can't keep jumping his names like this, but you would see that I'm gonna just call him Diavit for now, since that's his pet name. That Diavit would reach into a pouch on his side, grab a handful of those very same different bugs, almost these red beetle-like things, and eat them, shoving them into his mouth, crunching very aggressively, wincing at the taste, and then scampering over to you, still kind of coughing, and stabbing you right in the chest. Right in the chest with his tail. You would take 2 con damage, and he looked at you. Hope this works. I think I got this right. Give me a Constitution save. Okay, the dice is like, yeah, this is definitely Maha story with a 23. You felt the sting of pain, and then you could feel your heart in your chest beating like a drum, stronger and stronger. You could feel your muscles tighten, your body grow just a bit, and ferocity increase. You can roll with your full stats for the next turn. With this enhancement, the beast swung at you. You were holding its legs, but its claws were free, and with clawed hands swiped right at your head. I'm gonna roll for it. An 18. What is your
Gotta
AC?
meet his fist with my
No,
fist.
go ahead. I figured that didn't work. Ain't the same for me.
think we agreed on it being an 18. Fuck, I just blanked. Hold on.
No, no. Right now you have your full stat.
As he's, throwing his fist. Oh yeah, this definitely would have hit me now. And I am sort of
Ooh,
uh
hold on, buddy. I think we're losing
you
you.
know too high velocity into his fist, and sort of a shockwave would come out. Testing. Hello.
Damn, it took that long. Yeah, there's a little bit of a delay there.
I think it
Some
should
slight
be better now.
technical difficulties. Let's try to count. 1, 2,
One,
3.
two,
Oh,
three.
all right. So yeah, we got a 3-second delay.
Okay, hold on.
All
Testing.
right, perfect.
Yeah, alrighty. I just have to leave and come back.
Paint the scene for me. You said you would. I heard match his fists with.
My fist.
Ooh,
So yeah, as he's throwing his hands to claw, I am throwing my hands to punch him. Punch his hand. And as those two collide, a massive shockwave would happen as two massive forces are now connecting.
that shockwave and the boom that came along with it, though you didn't know, sent birds flying off in distance and made some of the distant villagers kind of look up, wondering if it was about to rain soon. But the creature, it didn't look surprised. It didn't really have that kind of expression. It looked more so angry, outraged. What kind of expression you have?
Aki, smiling, ready for more.
Well, good, because that other hand is swinging right down on you. I'm about to roll. All right, dice. That's a 19.
Want me to roll against that?
No, that's your AC.
Got you. Oh yeah, that wouldn't hit that.
So, what do you do?
Oh, you want to know what's? Oh, uh, this is him trying to hit me again, correct?
Yeah, other hand now.
The same thing is gonna happen, but this time, like turning it into sort of a grapple.
So, two of you would be locked in this test of strength. I'm assuming that means you let go of his
And I'm
legs.
gonna. Yeah, it's now we're locked in hand. Hold on, I'm gonna swap over to my uh phone if I can find my headpiece. There we go. Give me like please.
You're all good. I'm going to put in the chat the name of all your siblings right quick.
Testing.
Test received. Test answered. Testing now.
Good.
But does he hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Excellent. So, to you guys locked in a grapple now, your siblings are looking on in awe because this is a monster that usually takes multiple adults to take down, multiple coordinated grown warriors. And here you were, locked in a contest of strength with it. Even Jorashk, who was moving in for the maul swing, kind of hesitated for a second, and then glared over at Diavith. What'd you do to him? Is that to me? But Diavis was looking real dizzy. Wow, this is bug poison. It has a little bit of a kick to it. I'm tired now. He was still staggering to his feet, but across the way, Parisia was knocking another arrow, drawing back and grinning. That's it. Holds him right there. Seeing that, Jurash growled, reared his maul up. No, it's mine! He'd limp run forward, and right as your siblings are about to take this kill, is there anything you would like to do?
You're gonna see a grin, and I'm gonna say, no, it's mine. And I'm going to attempt to fully overpower and crush this thing under my own body.
Ooh, give me 3 strength rolls versus a DC that I will not tell you.
And these are with my full stats, though, right?
Yes. It does not include your aspect, but it does include your class.
Yep, the bonus and proficiency.
Yes.
Got to.
We got a
Well, the first
42.
one was a nat.
A nat
natural
20.
Well, first we got a
Guys,
crit. A nat 20 crit, yes. The 33.
that would have been a crit failure if not for the advantage.
You know, 31.
You and this creature grappled for dominance, and you could feel, even at your strength, the strain across your body. Every muscle was on fire to stay even with this thing. But it was almost like arm wrestling. How equal strength seemed matched at first, but as that energy is constantly pushed out, whoever's energy falters is the one that begins to bend. This creature's arm would begin to falter, and you noticed why. Being a cat-like beast and having a phlegm response, you being so close to him could pick up from the scent organ at the roof of your mouth all of the wounds and injuries in his body. The same way a tiger or a lion would, you could tell where the breaks were, how several ribs had cracked from falling down the mountain, how one of its legs were also cracked, and how a piece of that cracked rib was even leaning into one of its lungs. It was fighting you with everything it could. And for a moment, it even was able to step forward, roar, and start to overpower you, despite the arrow in its chest. But as you got closer, as you began to overpower it, your chest pressed against the arrow that pushed even further into his body. You began to lean it backwards, and as it roared in its face, instinctively you would roar back. And you could feel this sudden pain in your shoulder blades. A very, very strange, not quite like a slicing feeling, more like a shell breaking kind of feeling, like dead skin ripping off. And you could feel, though you were a two-armed and two-legged creature, it almost felt like as if you had another pair of arms on your back. As you roared and the others gasped, they could see the shadow that you passed over. They could see the shadow of your wings. And finally, the creature's bones would give way. There'd be this sickening crack as your arms finally came in, moved forward, and broke this beast down. Your wings flaring behind you, the beast going deathly still, and the arrow that was in between the both of you punctured all the way through its spine. And then, silence. A silence that was broken by Jorash. What the fuck is that? He did that? He did that and not me? No. The others were looking at you. Diavith and Varisia. What do you do?
I stand over the dead body, and I let out a roar from the deepest part of my chest.
That
Flaring all of my muscles, full on battle cry type stuff.
that would immediately motivate the others, your siblings. And following behind you would be a slightly, but still very guttural and very from the core roar from Diavith. And then Varisia. But Jorashk just glared at you all, kind of simmering, frustrated, but chewing on respect that he didn't want to give.
This is my story. My perfect victory. That's all that appeared on my mind.
Oh, we did that. The hunt would have taken some time, and now you guys were on your way back with the spoils of your battle. Are you just carrying the carcass, or are you allowing them to set it up on a
No,
little?
I'm not. I'm carrying that. I'm carrying that bitch. This is my kill.
Shit is stretched across your shoulders, big as hell, arms and legs dragging across the floor. It's like almost twice your size. by
Yeah.
this by this point, the toxin, or at least the potion that Diavith had stung you with, had kind of expired, and the wasps that he had attacked you with had returned to the warhorn on his hip. Oh, are you okay? I I'm sorry I followed you guys, but I was testing and I was testing this. He held up a little baggie that had these clear shell beetles. And when he bit down on one, it seemed to make his skin transparent, make him invisible.
Mm. Bug Legion. Isn't that nice? Your own little army.
Well,
Doesn't this make
yeah.
you a tyrant? Because you did slaughter many of them too.
Uh, he kind of pointed at your footsteps. I'm pretty sure you're killing plenty of every step you take. I mean, so am I, and so are. They're not like us. They're more like machines. They don't really feel affection. They feel duty. At least I think. And also, the ones that survive, get the spoils of my battle. So it's almost like a, what's the word? A symbiotic relationship. They help me, and I help them. And they're really attracted to sound. So he kind of held up the horn really proudly. If I play certain tunes, I guess it's the vibrations, but it makes them react differently. I
So already taking the steps of a leader.
I I wouldn't say all that, but I think I learned something from you. Remember a couple of years ago when we got our weapons, and you said that you are the weapon? I was thinking about that, like really, really thinking about it. And the weapon I had it didn't really fit me that good. But he looked at his tails, which probably out of everyone, out of all your siblings, were the most developed. Likely, well, children have this thing all the way to, I believe it's adolescence, where if a child focuses on a certain thing enough, their body starts to develop to adapt. A child in martial arts, say Taekwondo, will have longer legs. A child that plays the piano will have longer fingers. It seemed like the same thing was happening with Diavit's tail. Or tails. I I I was really inspired by you deciding to use your own body as a weapon, so I wanted to do the same thing. And yeah, since we're part bug, I guess, sort of. He smiled at his scorpion tails. It kind of felt right. If you if you are going to be strong, then I'm going to be strong. But you're like big strong, and I'm like small strong, army strong.
Great way to put it, brother.
He grinned, and when he grinned, you noticed that something similar was also happening with his fangs. He had two particularly larger fangs, almost snake-like. They were definitely more canine than anything, but they definitely looked like they were more suited for injections or more suited for venom. But while y'all were talking, and Veriza was singing loudly and off key behind you guys to her wyvernling, you would hear, and you would be the only one to hear it. I didn't mean it. From Jorash. He was still trailing behind you guys, and thanks to some of the medicine from Diavith, he was walking better. But he was looking at his maul as he was walking. What would
Almost
you do?
kind of hearing it and not wanting to draw attention to it. I would say, well, we know you have a heart, and isn't that all that matters?
He wasn't supposed to die. He said that a little bit louder, loud enough that the other siblings actually kind of perked up. But Jorash was still kind of glaring at his maul, specifically at the chip in his maul, where he had, well, where it had impacted with his brother's skull and killed him. He didn't want to fight. He was scared. He was sad. He always gave up. I thought if I pushed him, he would keep fighting. And he didn't, and he dropped his guard. And he he wasn't supposed to. I didn't mean it. He was kind of glaring, frustrated.
Charles, what was his weapon?
He picked up a sword, a stupid, small ass sword. Did you know he was ashamed of us? He looked up at you. Because we're not like the others in the tribe. When he said that, he was motioning to the two tails, which, while your family was normal, for the rest, so much. They picked on him, they bullied him, and he kept giving up. And it pissed me off, so I thought with weapons now, I didn't mean it.
Didn't mean it. Take his legacy alongside your maul. Take the legacy of his sword and continue his story as you write your own. You shouldn't
He
feel
looked up.
regret.
When he looked up at you, you could see the conflict in his eyes. And as you said, you shouldn't feel regret. Give me a charisma roll. Either persuasion. Yeah, it's not deception. So yeah, give me a persuasion roll.
You know what? It's like I don't have advantage on this one. Oh no.
23 is still not bad though. Definitely not bad.
Proficiency definitely helped. I don't sit here and lie to you.
You could see him squint at you. His expression's still hard. He didn't look sad, just really angry. Likely angry at himself. His expression did not soften, but he did go quiet again. You could tell that he was thinking about your words, using your voice as ammunition against all the dark thoughts plaguing his mind. Diavit kind of leaned in. He said he has a heart? I thought he was just always mad all the time and always hungry. What happened on this hunt?
He did well. He kept his same demeanor. He was angry. He was hungry. But his heart came when it needed most. When I needed the protection from him, he stood by me proudly.
Huh. Well, he smiled. Good. He's not a total jerk. And I don't have to feel bad for helping him. And it's really not your fault. I mean, it's kind of your fault. Actually, no, it is your fault. But you know, you don't have to. I'm not doing a good job at help. I'm just gonna be quiet. He just turned his head and walked forward. But you would all make it back, and there would be cheers. Not quite cheers in the usual sense. A sort of cheering war song, if you will. The Soaring Spirit tribe that night would be bringing back all of the beasts that various different families had hunted together. It wasn't a comparison. Some had only just gone fishing. Some had gathered a huge amount of herbs. In Diavit's case, he had gathered so many different species of bugs, like so many different species, and was very excitedly like showing anyone who would listen their uses, applications, the powders they made, all that kind of stuff. But when you plop down the body of that beast, first there was silence, and then all eyes fell on you and your siblings. Your father stood among the crowd, arms folded as usual, with a big ass smirk on his face. He could see the scars across your body from the battle. Your mother looked just as proud. As all eyes were on you, would you have anything to say to them?
No. Every hard battle, we seem to come out right on top. I even overpowered it in strength, something that it was supposed to be known for.
They were still staring. You could see and even sense a mixture of emotions from awe to envy. But the silence was broken by a hearty laughter from your father. You all see this? You see this, right? He was walking forward now, boulder shouldering anyone in his way as he parted the crowd, arms spread out. My son. My son. My sons. He grinned, patting both you and your brother on the shoulder. Jorash, despite all the thoughts going on through his head, actually did smirk a little bit. He looked around at the crowd. This is what we do. This is what my family does. We don't settle for anything less than the pinnacle, the very top. And then once we reach that mountain, once we climb to the highest, we look up. My son! And as he roared, the people started to cheer. And he would break into your family's war song. A very, very specific ritualistic song that was unique to and only known by you and your kind. Or rather, you and your blood. The singing, the revelry, the mirth would last throughout the night and into the next. And even as your nomadic clan began to pick up and move, traveling to settle in new lands, the songs would continue. A few days would go by. Those days would grow into months, into years. And in that time, you grew in strength, you grew in prestige. Your siblings also continued to grow, yet, unfortunately, Zareth, your considerably crazier sister with her great sword, seemed to have vanished, moving away from the tribe. It wasn't too unusual. It just seemed to happen sometimes. The tribe would occasionally grow smaller, sometimes even grow bigger, as Mantonin from other tribes joined yours, as families were made and found, as alliances were forged. Life had a pattern, which was nice. It was predictable, but never easy. Learning new creatures, new territories, claiming new lands, facing down new threats, all the way up until you had reached adolescence. You had been the first Mantonin to grow your wings, but now the others were finally catching up. But on this day, in particular on this night, it was a big day for you. It was the day that you would receive your war tattoos. By now, you have been in a couple battles, even battles against rival tribes. It wasn't just beasts now. You had learned to slay men and women. You had learned what war was really about. You had to fight to protect, to save, and sometimes there were people that you couldn't save. Not that you didn't try, but
Hold on,
sometimes
give me
someone
like
didn't.
2 seconds.
You're good. With this delay, let me add this over here. And while we wait for our audience, let's kill some time with some bug facts from the So, the mantonins anatomically are part feline, part hunting cat, and if I'm not mistaken, also part scorpion. Is that right, so? All right, all right.
Yes,
Question
yes,
for
yes.
you. How common is it for a mantonin to do what the Divid did, using insects or particularly ingesting their toxins to transfer into their own stings? The
Um,
idea I got from a certain kind of bird, a toxic bird that well, birds aren't supposed to be toxic, but it gets its toxins through its skin by eating toxic insects.
it's actually uh a decently common um trait. Mantonins
Nice.
have a cultural attraction to different venoms. It's one of the ways that they further define their individuality by um, exposing themselves to different toxins to modify the natural venom that they produce. There's a festival of sorts known as the Feast of a Thousand Stings, where
Spoilers. Hold on now.
okay, all right,
Let's not get crazy.
okay.
But I will ask, are Mantonins actually based on a specific hunting cat, like lion, tiger, jaguar, mountain
They
lion?
can belong to any of the big cats, honestly. The um, shielded this Maha's tribe actually is based more on um, black lions, but
Hmm.
there are uh,
Interesting.
more tiger-like Mantonin, as well as more panther-like, and the swiftest of Mantonin are based more around cheetahs.
Nice. Now I will be that guy and push up my glasses and say, actually, cheetahs don't count as big cats, but
I
they pretty
understand,
much do.
but they're my
They
favorite cat.
pretty
So
much do.
yeah,
Facts, Mike. Welcome
I
back,
made him,
Maha.
so it's my decision.
I felt that. Maha, are you returned to us?
Yes, I have.
Right. So we shall continue. Now, as I was saying before, it is finally time for you to gain your tribal tattoos. It is time for the inking of the ancestors. Was a particularly dark night, a moonless sky. Shadows stretched very far, and even for your feline vision, it was hard to grasp even the slightest iota of light. But that wasn't a problem. There were torches and lanterns very ritualistically placed around the village, and you, like many others, were dressed in certain garments that provided a bit of light via certain little crystals. This was it. This was one of the moments your entire life had lit up to. You didn't know what your tattoos would be like. You didn't know if it would hurt. You didn't know what would happen. But it was finally time for you to truly take your place among your people. What's going on through your mind?
Uh, he's filled with pure thrill, pure excitement. Not really able to stand still.
Your siblings are separated from you, and they have been all day. This moment seems very specific to you, though you know that they are also receiving their tattoos. From your home, when the time came, and you knew the time would come by both sense and sound, you would step out, and you would see the faces of all of the villagers, all of the soaring spirit tribe lined up side by side like a procession, watching as you made your way. You had a crown on your head, a sort of part skull, part embellishment, made from the first beast that you had slain and its own mighty horns, but designed in a way to also match your horns. As you walked, you could hear the chanting, you could see them dancing. You guys had repositioned, the entire tribe had repositioned closer to an area near the water. And As you walk through the trail of tribesmen, you were led to this blood red lake. In the lake, there seemed to be a priestess there, waiting for you. What do you do?
Uh, I kind of looking around and I try to embrace the moment and again towards the priest.
Still feeling your heart thumping, hearing the chanting, hearing the song of your people that radiated all the way down into your heart, that gave your muscles and your very spirit strength. You would step into the water, which felt cold at your feet, even colder at your ankles, and freezing by your knees. A challenge, a test of your strength. Give me a constitution roll.
Here,
And you walk through the water.
does it stay with full access or is this now back to normal?
Back to normal.
Okay. No more proficiency.
Jesus.
Got a 26.
Jesus. One step in front of the other, moving forward the same way you had accomplished everything in the past. One step in front of the other. The water was now at your waist, and you could feel that chill up your spine. It took conscious effort not to shiver. The water was chest height by the time you made it to the priestess, who was standing on top of the water. But she smiled and came down to her knees to grab your face and hold it very gently in her hands, looking into your eyes. And she would very subtly whisper a single word. Relax. You could feel that tightness in your muscles, the tension kind of fade away. You could feel yourself giving away to the moment. And as you did, you could feel the very tactile, very subtle caress of a finger tracing across your face. Your eyes were locked on hers, and her irises seemed to be almost glowing, radiating a myriad of silvers and reds. And she continued to trace. But as she did, you could start to feel a little dizzy, a bit strange, as if the waters themselves, or whatever perfumes were spread across the waters, were starting to affect you. And finally, she would hold out her hand, producing what looked like a heart, the hearts of that beast that you had slain all that time, very carefully preserved and even crystallized. You could see in the crystalline facets a mixture of colors for blues and greens and reds, showing that there was something infused with it. But as you ate, or rather, would you eat? Would you accept it?
I mean, yeah, if she's offering, I could eat food.
Okay. One more constitution roll. The last one. Another 26. You would consume it, and you could feel these tattoos beginning to glow across your own body. Your pupils would dilate just a bit, and that glow across your form became so fierce that the rest of your body looked like a black silhouette in comparison. What color is this glow?
Can you repeat that? I cut out. Like,
What color is the glow from your
2 seconds.
tattoos?
Um, it's a bright gold.
Mm. Now, I'm sharing into the chat a jumble. Give me 1 second. Because your mind will be filled with concepts, with thoughts. You could feel almost like the air getting colder and both colder and warmer around you. In the distance, you could hear a roar. You could see so many eyes watching you from the darkness itself. But you knew that they weren't actually there. Somehow, in some way, you knew that these were your ancestors watching. That your tattoos were infused with their energy. That you now not only carried your own legacy, but the legacy of what would be behind you and the legacy of what would come after you. Now, each ancestor would take a step forward, and you could feel yourself almost slipping down deeper into the water. You would hear a voice. I am the step beyond the breaking point. I am the inexorable change. What am I? What would be your response?
He's the inevitable change.
The inexorable change. The step beyond the breaking point. I'll share it in the chat for you.
Mm. Inevitable.
There was a rumbling, a sort of pain that shot through your body. Your tattoos dulled slightly and the water rose. Now closer to your upper chest. Somehow you knew you could not let this water drown you. And thus it would repeat. Actually, no, a new voice would speak. I am the extension of you, a tool, both necessary and not. What am I?
Mm.
I'm sharing that into the chat now.
You're riddling me.
I'm riddling you, yes, but the answer is in the chat too. That cluster of words that you have in your head that you got to unravel. Right above the first question.
Oh. A what?
Now, while you Ah, is that your final answer?
Yes.
Your response? A weapon. And the spirit, the ancestor, seemed to continue forward until they fully merged with your tattoo. You saw the water drain. Another voice. Speak out. I am the unpredictable. Inspiration to evolution. What am I?
Chaos.
The water would drain once more. The spirit, instead of flowing directly into you, would flow past you, around you, move erratically like a lightning bolt, and then jolt into you. And as it did, another voice spoke. I am blood and water, the bond and the womb. What am I?
Family.
This spirit actually seemed to have arms as it reached out towards you. As it embraced you and you felt the water level dropping now, back down to your knees, it would merge with you. The glow of your tattoos were very bright now, but you could feel the ground rumbling, a pain gripping at you, and anger building up. I am the step beyond the breaking point. I am the inexorable change. What am I?
War.
Your heart would thump, the water would fully descend, and you could see a reflection in the water, the last spirit, the spirit of what looked like almost yourself. The closest of all the spirits that look like you, except all the spirits seem to merge together in that reflection. And all of them, as one, will reach up through the water towards you, touching onto your heart and fusing with it. That shock, that coldness would fade into a very calming warmth. You could feel your ears rattling, your whole body shaking, until your eyes opened once again and you were on land. You were knelt down. Your tribe, your family, all around you. Your siblings there, each one of them with tattoos of their own, also all kneeling. And that war song, once again radiating out, even as it circled you, even as you had gone from a child to an adult, passing your ceremony. The chanting, the rhythm, the music, all very natural to you, would all begin to fade very slowly. But as you looked at yourself, looked at the tattoos on your body, looked back at the water, and saw yourself, you were the same, of course, yet these golden marks across your body, the miniature Maha that was manifesting now, and the story that this ink was writing across you, the first of many. the symbol that your journey was truly about to begin. Is there anything you'd like to do?
Uh, you're gonna see Maha stand uh, as big and as tall as he can. And with the experience of what he went through, the pain and the sensation that he felt talking to what became his tattoos, he he roars with that same empathy of that sensation.
And though you couldn't see it, Mini Maha was roaring as well, causing lines of gold to stretch out and begin to craft the next part of your story. Now, time would go by. Your tribe, growing and shrinking as usual. The years passing as you proved yourself as a hunter, a warrior, a guardian. Sometimes they called you Maharashtra. Sometimes they called you Kura. Those who knew you, at least, called you Kura. Those who didn't called you Maha. But on this day, you and all of your siblings were training. From your father, who was now older, who was missing one of his tails from battle, had several scars and wounds, but still stood very proud. That same arms folded stance, straight back and everything, as you had seen for all your life. This was different, though. This was training. And as you were training, at this point, had you ever picked up any other weapons, or was it still your bare hands?
Uh, I would have gone through every weapon at least once. Once when and only moved on till I felt like I completed the weapon.
Hmm. Now, on this day, you were training with your siblings, all of you together fighting your father. He was whooping your guys' asses. He had never broken his folded arms, which was really the crazy part about it. Simply moving, stepping, using his tails if need to, kicking you in the chest a good 2 blocks away when necessary. In fact, he seemed to be doing that a lot. Whenever you guys would jump him, he would kick one of you guys very far away, fight the rest. When that person got back, you either kick them again or kick someone else. And he was kind of yelling at you all. You're a group, a pack. Act like it. What have I showed you? As you're all fighting, tell me, how would you try to get the better of your father? You know that just running up on him and throwing hands is not going to work.
Uh, I would definitely start uh, giving a bit more order to everyone because I feel like I've gotten an understanding of what everyone wants to do with their weapon, knowing from using their weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
So you know Jarash had his maul, which at this point was he actually learned from Virtuous, not Virtuous, sorry. He had actually learned from Diavith and had a double-sided maul. It was a staff with 2 weights on either ends, and it had insects stored on the inside that he could call with a roar. Meanwhile, Varisia still had her bow, but her bow could break apart into short swords, and she was an incredibly good wyvern rider. Her and her mount that she had been, well, at this point, growing up with, took to the sky and fired down. Meanwhile, Diabit himself had started leaning way more into shamanism, learning how to manipulate illusions, poisons, powders, and really manipulate the battlefield to either enhance his allies or debilitate his enemies. How would you direct them?
Uh, First, I would tell Draws, stop swinging and use your big ass body. Telling him to go just straight forward towards father. I would tell there, use your oh my gosh, use your weapon to cut off his reach. Make sure he can't uh ugh. Make sure he can't fully extend his joints. And I would tell Zayu, cut off his movement. Make sure he can't go as far. Kind of making a sort of eight.
As you said, cut off. The moment you said cut off, your father seemed to almost appear in front of you, moving way quicker than it looked like his body should be able to. Right in your face, eyes wild, he would roar, a roar that sent your hair flying, that felt like a hurricane was blowing around you. And when you saw him, for a moment, he looked like a demon, like a giant. It felt like your muscles had just suddenly deflated. Give me a charisma check, please.
I got a 10.
You were afraid. It was the sense of fear came from your body. A message that you may not even fully recognize or understand the emotion. But before you could even catch yourself, you took a step back. Your father would smirk, and that tail came lashing in. Let me see.
Definitely hit.
Piercing your shoulder and picking you up in the air, throwing you at Jorash, who was charging in and just ran you over. He kept charging. He didn't give a damn. You will take 15 con damage. What do you do?
So I'm assuming I was caught by Jara.
Oh,
Not
no. Caught in
not
the
in a
sense
sense
like
of,
his body was like a wall, or like it was caught in the same
yeah,
way like
caught in
being
a
thrown in front of a truck would catch you.
right. Like I'm now just following with his force. That it did not slow him
Yes,
down at all.
absolutely.
Yeah, so that I would get on to his back. And if he's running with his body, I'm gonna grab his maul.
You could see his eye flicker, but at this point in time, he had come to trust you. The two of you together were some of the best warriors in the village, so he totally trusted you. But your father would smirk, inhale, and roar once again.
As he did that, I would honestly tell David, cover our ears.
He looked really confused at that, but wasted no time, grabbing into a satchel and throwing with surprising aim this weird beeswax type honey that would splatter against both of you. And when he
Yeah.
roared, you didn't hear it. You saw it, but you didn't hear it. And still, your body shuddered with fear off the vibrations, which lets you know that this was definitely more than just sound. He was doing something. You knew this technique, though. Give me a knowledge roll.
Doo-doo-doo.
Sorry, intelligence. You knew it.
I'm gonna
You
roll with
knew
it.
it. But it was not something that you were very good at. However, Jorashk was especially good at this. He was using the Mantonin's fear manipulation, a snarl, a sort of vibratory frequency in his roars, in his voice, that spoke directly to the primitive part of a brain and triggered the fear response. It wasn't just a matter of hearing it. If you felt it, your body would react. But you guys were also using Mantonin techniques, particularly pack warfare. And from where you're moving, from how you were moving, while on your back, or rather while you're on Jorash's back, he would yell out, "You ready? We only got one shot at this."
Always.
He would roar and he would leap as high as he could towards his father, who still had his arms folded, looking at you both. When he leapt, he held his arms out, and two very large draconic talons grabbed him. As your sister flew overhead, her wyvern would grab him and do an entire loop in the sky to build momentum and launch him straight down. Go, go, go!
Wait, what?
He jumped while you're on his back. The wyvern grabbed him, flipped in the air, and threw him and you straight down towards your father at like double speed.
Yeah, I'm taking them all and I'm like spinning with that momentum. Ready to slam them all down.
Your father actually smirked, nodding. Give me that strength roll with that advantage, or rather, give me the attack roll with the advantage.
Got a 25.
25. Soaring down towards him not moving an inch, but actually you saw your father lean forward. The most he would do to brace himself as he prepared. And as you rocketed towards him, maul held expertly, you would swing. He would lift up. He would unfurl his hands to try to catch. And the impact sent him skidding backwards. The impact reverberated through your arms and body as well, and you could feel it. There was a slight ditch in the ground from where y'all hit, and he smirked, nodding. Good. You made me use my arms. And then he threw you again. Training is done. You've proved yourself. All of you. The training, well, by the time you guys had sparred, it was the end of a very long series of training. And he had been teaching you guys Mantonin fundamentals, which he had always done, but now using himself as an actual target. There were certain things he wanted to make sure you guys did. The Mantonin were known very much for being able to manipulate their fear responses in their prey, for their packed warfare, attacking with different angles, aerial ambushes, both utilizing their pounces, powerful leg strength, and just attacking from the right angles. And of course, the tail blades, the poisons. Each one of you siblings had seemed to master something a little bit different. Now, I'm going to share a couple techniques into the chat. Which one would Maha have been drawn to? This is what he would have been focusing on teaching you this day. Either the Venom Fang strikes, Nightmare Claw or the Howling Pounce?
Probably the mm, probably the Nightmare Claw.
Okay, okay. Give me a dice 3. Let's see if you were able to pick up all 3 or just the one.
How you want me to roll that?
1d3.
Okay.
Of course, it's a Maha story. Why wouldn't he learn all 3? So, give me a little exposition here. Paint to see how does Maha train and learn these techniques?
Uh, he
Particularly the
he
Nightmare Claw.
as he's seeing these techniques done by those around him, he begins to mix a little bit of everything rather than just letting it be one specific technique. He takes the leaping straight howling pound from howling pounds and uses it within the nightmare claws, doing dolly rolls and throwing fists, not with just his waist, but with his entire body, striking with
Mhm.
everything that he had, mixing in the poison into his claws so that each strike, the paralysis would build up, slowly coming over the opponent's body as they were overwhelmed, not knowing what is it that's happening at the moment. Some things look like it's hitting, but others it looks like it's not doing anything. But somehow
Hmm.
you still feel the pain and the sensation as their body gives in to not only pain, but soon the pain just turns into nothing as they just fall, feeling more helpless than the pain that they felt from the fist.
And you would have had plenty of opportunities to practice this, both in the battles, the war, hunting, things like that. Plenty of time to notice your opponent's reactions to your poisons. While sometimes people barely showed any reactions, others had almost allergic like responses. But all the while, you and your siblings had become very proficient in what they did. None more so than you, able to learn a little bit of everything while the rest had specialized, and still managing to create your own signature technique. Your father had been considering all of this, and you could always see that look of approval in his eyes. Though, of course, that came with its own caveat of now he held you to a little bit of a higher standard than the others. It was never enough. He always gave you the props you deserved, but then always moved the bar a little bit higher. But he would have taught you that this is life. There were 2 ways of living life: comfortable or progressive. And if you wanted to progress, you always had to seek higher. If you wanted to be comfortable, then simply settle for what you have. As he imparted this wisdom, the techniques, and everything on you guys, by the end of the training, with all of you exhausted, your father would stand up and stretch. All right. He looked up at the sky, using the sun's positioning to measure time. Ah, look at that. It's finally time. Come, come. The food should be ready. He was grinning broadly. And by now, y'all would know about this. It had come around a few times, though y'all weren't always allowed to participate. When he had said the food will be ready, you would see not Jorash, though Jorash was always the hungriest, but Diavith actually spring up first. Oh, oh, is it time? Oh, I've been waiting for this. I've been out, ribs. I've been waiting for this. He ran by you, kind of slapped you across the shoulder and kept running. Come on, come on. It's time. Ah, and I'm gonna win this time. Been ready? Been waiting? Time for the thousand stings. He had the biggest grin on his face. His grin slowly melted. The thousand stings. He squinted at you.
Okay, I'm not too far behind.
Well, was I the only one excited for this? He ran, started to wince,
Very
holding his ribs
excited.
again.
But pain hurt.
Pain does hurt. Yeah. Got a little excited. Mm. He would inhale sharply and start limping away. Come on, let's go. We're gonna be late. Thousand stings.
Alright,
Food festival.
alright, let's get there quick. Just
Come
not
on, Jorash.
too quick.
Jorash was on the ground, face down. He looked dead. The wyvern was poking him. Virza, Virza would hoist him up, chuckle, throw him on the wyvern. And, smirking at her brothers, looking at the training ground, the destroyed training ground, nodding to herself, very satisfied, she would follow along. As well, you guys headed towards the Festival of a Thousand Stings, where we will pause for tonight, our part 2, and thus prepare hopefully tomorrow for our finale, our final part of this journey into the past, into history.
Next time, Dragon Ball Z.
I hope you've all enjoyed yourselves, sat back, enjoyed the story of heroism, hunting, and growth as our Maharashtra grows ever closer to his ancestral ties. I've been your storyteller for tonight, the one and only Vyrtuous. And our protagonists, according to the dice and fates, apparently,
Of course.
Maharashtra.
It is
Okay.
I. Of course. It's my story after all.
The overseer and creator of this wonderful universe, Soulsym Mirak.
You know, if you enjoyed the storytelling stylings of Lume, please go ahead and drop a like in the chat on the video and hit that subscribe button so you can catch more of this.
Indeed, indeed. And with that, I hope you guys all have a good night, a good evening, and a good morning. This is Virtuous signing out.